Most people think that work-life balance is a thing. It actually isn't. It's not a thing. It doesn't exist. And trying to find work-life balance is one of the key causes why people don't find balance in their life.
You're listening to 15M Mastery, a show that empowers you with insights from the leading iGaming experts to enhance your personal or business performance. The show is brought to you by tech-driven affiliate and media company Already Media, and supported by the AI-powered data analytics platform Blask. Yo Investments, a fund manager investing in outstanding people who are disrupting the iGaming, fintech, and crypto industries. And BC Game, the multi-award-winning crypto casino with a player-centric approach. Hello and welcome to 15M Mastery. Today, we wrap up this series with Leo Judkins by discussing the third pillar of sustainable high performance: finding balance. In this episode, we'll talk about setting boundaries, scheduling quality time, and recharging effectively. Welcome back for the final episode, Leo.
Dima, I'm so happy to be back. It's been amazing. 2 super intense and high quality episodes. I hope people really got something out of it. And this is one of my favorite things to talk about, because when it comes to high performance, this is the part that people forget about. And this is also going to be the game changer for everyone. So glad to be here.
I love it. Let's get straight to the action. Why it is so difficult for people to switch off from work these days?
Yeah, so, okay, I'm going to start off with a kind of a controversial statement, which is that work-life balance doesn't exist. Okay, so most people think that work-life balance is a thing. It actually isn't. It's not a thing. It doesn't exist. And trying to find work-life balance is one of the key causes why people don't find balance in their life, because I often think about it as a circle. There is just life, and work is part of that. Just like everything else, your friends, your relationship, sports, hobbies, they're all part of that same bubble, which is life. So it's more about work-life integration. Like, how do you integrate work in your life without it taking the full bubble, right? The full circle. And that's where people kind of go wrong, because they think that, they need to stop working, or they need to, I don't know. I actually don't really know. The key here is that you want to crowd in to crowd out. You want to make the other bubbles bigger so that it pushes back on the work bubble, right? And that's really the key.
I really like what you just said, and I think this is the perfect way to start the episode. There is no work-life balance. Boom.
100%. It doesn't exist.
Yeah. Okay. So if there is no balance, is there such a thing as boundaries maybe? Because, it's very hard, especially, when there was a COVID back then, it's just like impossible to distinguish, work and life. You're just in the same room doing the same things. Yeah. So are there boundaries? And if are the boundaries, how one can take any step just to set them up?
Yeah, great question. So one of the key challenges that we have is that our focus muscle is very weak. We, like we discussed in previous episodes, the difficulty is that we constantly feel that the need to check on things, right? And for people that are high achievers, for founders, for people with large P&L responsibilities, whatever, if you've got a large responsibility there, the difficulty is that that's always on the back of your mind. As business owners, for us, it's the same, right? It's the last thing you go to bed with, and it's the first thing that you wake up with. It's just the way it works. Now, it's not about stopping that from happening, because that's just the way life is, and that actually makes you a very high achiever. That's what creates the drive. The thing is more about, okay, how do I create times, almost like in the last episode, time blocking my personal time, my moments in, and how during that time am I going to practice being more present for these moments. And when you combine those two things, like taking a systematic approach to, that work-life balance that doesn't exist, but the other parts of life that you want to crowd in, so that you crowd a little bit of work out, so that you recover better. Like, when you start being more systematic about that and planning it in, and then you use those moments for practicing focus and being present, that's really how you change things. Now, there's loads of modern kind of tools that people use nowadays, right? Which, like using a dumb phone, or going completely analog, and that's great. That's actually a really good way of starting. But in the end, it comes down to our own behaviors, right? It comes down. we can't put the blame on something else. We've got to take full ownership and accountability here. We've got to work on our own habits and take it from there.
Am I right by saying that scheduling quality time with family or friends will improve the performance of that time?
100%. Yeah. And the performance of your work as well. Mm-hmm. Because what it allows you to do is it's a few things, right? Number one, what it does is it creates a commitment for yourself. You don't have to invite that person into your meetings, your wife into your meetings. Probably a bit weird. She might look at you, what is happening here? But when you do that for yourself, A, you create a commitment, right? You create a commitment for yourself. B, now because you've created that commitment and you're committing to practicing it, it blocks off that time from everything else. And three, it allows you to kind of think strategically about when do I have these moments where I want to, recover. And really, that's not just personal time with your kids or with your partner or with your friends. That's also things like hobbies. And that's also things, especially like me time. You call it me with capital M-E, right? Absolutely about me. Whatever that is, going for a walk or going for just disconnecting completely. And when it comes to time blocking, our previous episode, when we work on time blocking with clients, the first thing we do is time block this stuff that we're talking about here, right? We don't start with time blocking, close of day, start day planning, deep work. We don't start with that. We start with all of your personal time. We start when we zoom out, when we think about the year, we start with your holidays and your time off, right? That's where we start, and then everything else gets filled in, because that's how you crowd in to crowd out.
Wow, I never thought about it that way. I think this is one of the things which I will change in my life as well, and I never thought that it's that important. But let me ask you one simple question, because I mean, as someone who is like insane about the data and everything I do is data driven, is there a way to diagnose someone is that their life is out of balance?
No, because I think it's okay to be out of balance, in fact, I'm going to restate that. I think we are all out of balance. I think nobody is in balance. I think the fact that people are trying to find balance is a problem, because it's just seasons, different seasons in our life, and that's okay. But it's fine if your work takes 90% of your mental capacity, during a season. And it's fine if it takes 10% during another season. That's also okay. But the key is that we make time proactively for the things like our pillars of well-being: friends, family, personal time, hobbies, the things that build meaning, And that doesn't have to be the problem is that when you try to make all those times equal, that's never going to happen, right? Even if you're in a regular, I don't know what's normal nowadays, but 36 or 40-hour week or something, that is a significant amount of your week, right? How are you going to find 40 hours with your kids? It's just not going to happen. So I think the fact that you're trying to find balance is the issue for most people. And so I think the data is always skewed if we talk about data, and that's okay.
I think you've touched a very interesting point of prioritization in this kind of a work-life balance kind of a story, because you have kids, you have like your hobbies, you have time with friends, etc. And I think this is something which one has to be very careful about and understanding. I think something we talked about, the energy levels, what actually brings you the most joy, the most recovery, the most calm and mindfulness.
Yes, absolutely. Because the thing is that when you're not proactive about it, especially when you're like a workaholic, maybe you class yourself as a workaholic. I don't class myself as a workaholic, but it's constantly on my mind, right? And so whatever you class that as, right, you're consumed by work, or work is always on your mind. The easiest thing to do is to say no and to deprioritize all those nice things, right? The meeting friends and doing something with your kids, or grabbing your laptop when you're actually supposed to have a movie night with your partner. All those things are the easy things to do, because there's a crisis to fix. Well, the problems will just never stop. And so, but when you zoom out and you almost take a planning approach to your year, perhaps then to your month, perhaps then to your week, and perhaps to your day as well, And you start with kind of the things that recharge you, re-energize you, all of the things that are not work, even your breaks, right, during the day. That then puts you on the front foot, and that creates a commitment for you. Now, the second thing is, of course, then keeping to it. And you're going to fail, and you're going to fall over, and you're going to stumble, and that's not going to go well the first time, because that's how habits are built. Habits aren't built by being perfect straight away. A baby doesn't start walking on the first attempt. It takes 1,000 attempts to do. But the baby never goes, oh, well, I'll give up on walking then, It actually starts walking after a while. And so just being a little bit kinder to yourself with practicing these things is, and actually looking at it as practice, is the key to having more of that balance.
But how do you recharge when you're feeling completely burned out? You mentioned that recharging is also very important. But how is this possible? What are the practices?
Yeah, so there's 3 different things that are important to mention here. The first one is that throughout the day, your energy level can be gone, right? And so that's when you kind of just switch off. You've got to switch off. You've got to step away from the computer, and just relax and do something else. And that can be very hard because maybe there's tons of stuff that still needs to be done. The problem is that if that tons of stuff still needs to be done, but you are sitting there with like complete brain fry and not able to produce anything, that's just going to take much longer. So if you step away for an hour, which is going to be uncomfortable, but you're just not going to do anything, you're going to go analog and you come back, in the remaining hours, you will have it done far more quickly than if you would have sat down. So that's the first thing to talk about. The second thing is, long-term kind of, low energy levels, right? And so I've been, I think, fortunate enough actually to have had 2 burnouts. I notice the signs from it now. It's very difficult to notice those signs when you haven't had them. So I call it fortunate because it sounds maybe weird, but it allows me to kind of be more in tune when that starts happening. And one of the things is when you have long-term burnout, or when burnout happens over a longer time, it's usually not because of the amount of work that you've got or the amount of hours that you're working. It's because the weight of the hours has started increasing. And that's usually because you don't see meaning in your job anymore, or because your boss is horrible or something like that, right? So the weight of the hours, like doing the work, actually is suddenly far heavier than it was before. Because if you're passionate about something and you feel that you're making a real difference and it aligns with your values, you can work forever. It's not a problem. And then the third thing is really making sure that you just arrive at the start of the day, like we talked about in the first episode, arrive at the start of the day energized. Really key, because that allows you to lift heavy, to those hours that are maybe a little bit heavier.
I think you mentioned mindfulness, and this is also a very deep and complicated topic. I don't want to really, unfold everything here because this is probably a topic for another episode. But what role do you think mindfulness or being present actually play in finding a balance? I think what you just mentioned, the idea about, the work which is draining you because of that, etc. So we're talking a lot about, the balance and how it actually affects your life. So what role does mindfulness or being present play on finding balance?
Yeah, so great question again, Nadima. So one of the things that people often think is that they have to practice mindfulness or have to sit down and close their eyes and breathe deeply and listen to music and although that is a vehicle, I suppose, to practicing mindfulness, it's really about you're not stopping your thoughts from racing, but helping you focus on a single thing. So think about the way that we look at things, right? I'm looking at you now, and I'm aware of the things that are here. I can see them, but I'm focused on you, right? And so very often the problem is that when our mind is unfocused, it's a really great word for it as well. When our mind is unfocused, my eyes, it's like it's constantly going like that, right? Where I'm constantly looking at all these different things. I'm constantly task switching. So mindfulness and practicing your focus muscle, practicing to be focused on one thing, is a really great way of improving your performance, finding more balance, not having your energy drained so quickly, because it allows you to do more in the same amount of time. It also, the other thing is that it just helps with your overall state of mind. It's not like you're constantly on the lookout for all these things that are happening around you. Now, the mistake that most people make is that they think they need to push everything else out. And that's not true. It's not about pushing those things out, because I can still see them. It's just practicing to focus more on the thing that you're focused on.
I really like what you just said, Leo, and I think this was an amazing episode of an amazing 3 series, and everything you just said is so impactful and so immediately applicable. Thank you so much for sharing everything with us and your time, Leo. I'm a big fan, and I hope that people will love what we just recorded and use this to become a better human.
I hope so too. Thank you very much. It's been really great talking to you.